So I'm going to go over the new material today and post those videos for you. Tomorrow what I think I'm going to do are type up a bunch of practice questions for you, and then the video that I will record will be just me going through all those practice questions so that I'll give you time to do it and then I'll go over the answer. That way you can practice. So tomorrow is going to be Thursday. You can go over all those practice questions Thursday and then take the test Friday. Okay? Alright, so let's see. Alright, I kind of want you to be able to see me at the same time. Okay, so I don't know how to get that to go away. Okay, whatever. Okay, so let's just review really quickly what we did yesterday. So Monday what we talked about was angles as rotation, so angles going in the positive direction, angles going in the negative direction, coterminal angles, so that means that I can rewrite one specific angle in like tons of different ways. I could write it as 30, or I could write it as 360 degrees plus 30, so 390, or I can keep adding 360 degrees and I can keep getting a new name for that angle, but it's still in the exact same spot. Okay, so that was Monday. Yesterday, these are the notes we went over. We talked about radians. So radians are a brand new way to think about measuring angles. Instead of measuring a whole circle, measuring in degrees, this time we're going to measure in radians. So there's 360 degrees in a whole circle, and there's 2 pi radians in one full circle. So that's what we learned about yesterday. We went through all this stuff. We learned how to convert back and forth between radians and degrees. So remember that radians are always going to have a pi symbol in that answer. So if you need a pi symbol to be in your answer, you're going to want the pi symbol to be on top when you're multiplying. If you're trying to get an answer that's in terms of degrees, that answer is not going to have a pi symbol with it. So if you're taking something that's radian and has pi with it, you're going to multiply by 180 over pi so that it's in the numerator and denominator and they cross off, and then the degrees doesn't have a pi symbol with it at the end. So that's kind of how I think about it, because sometimes it's hard to remember. Am I supposed to multiply by pi over 180 or 180 over pi? So you can just think about it based on whether or not you're supposed to have a pi symbol in the answer or not. This is the new equation that we learned that you really need to know. Theta equals S over R. You're not given that equation on the test. Theta is the angle, and it has to be in degrees. If it's in, or I'm sorry, it has to be in radians. If it's in degrees, you have to transfer it over first. I really think that there's a question like that on the test where they want you to use this equation, but they're giving you the angle measure in degrees instead of radians. You have to remember to switch that over first. S is just the measure of the arc, which they're either giving you or you're solving for. R is the radius. That's not that bad. Okay, then we started learning about a unit circle, and your plate that you should have right in front of you right now is a unit circle. We're just pretending that the radius is equal to 1, so there were a bunch of things that I had you measure. We learned about sine and cosine as coordinates. So remember that, like how a normal coordinate is x comma y, it's actually cosine comma sine. So it's kind of alphabetical, so that's not too bad to remember. All students take calculus, so we know that all of the functions, sine, cosine, and tangent, are positive in the first quadrant. Only sine is positive in the second, only tangent is positive in the third, and only cosine is positive in the fourth. It seems to me like you already knew that, you already learned it, so that's pretty good. These questions are really easy. You seem to be pretty good at them. Let's see what else. Okay, this is where we stopped. So today we're going to learn about special angles and reference angles. So you know how we figured out that you can find the coordinates of any point on the circle by doing cosine comma sine? Well, there's going to be a couple of like special angles and reference angles that we're going to like memorize the exact sine and cosine of those, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay? Alright, so there's a ton of information going on this screen right now. But what I want you to take note of is this is obviously our unit circle, okay? So the radius is equal to 1, and that's our origin. That's 0, 0. So we know that this is also 0 degrees, This is 90. This is 180. 270 and 360. Okay, so on a unit circle, you know how we draw our unit circle, and even on your plate you have the X and Y axes going right through it. Well, this point right here is on your unit circle, and we know what the coordinates of that are right away, because if this is a radius of 1, then your X value is 1 and your Y value is 0. Okay, that's pretty easy. We absolutely already know the coordinate of this point. Your X is 0, your Y is 1. We know the coordinate of this point. We went to the left, or -1 for X and 0 for Y. And then down here, we know this point, that's 0, -1. So the reason why that's important is because those are our quadrantal angles, right? 0, 90, 180, 270, 360. So we already know what the sine and the cosine are of all of our quadrantal angles by just drawing out a unit circle and then labeling the coordinates of the corners, because we already know. Obviously this is 1, 0. So let me think about that. The cosine, or the number that comes first, remember, because it goes cosine, sine. It's alphabetical. That means that the cosine of 0 degrees is equal to 1. You can check me too if you don't believe me. Let's go into our calculator really quick. Make sure that you're in degree mode on your calculator. Quit. Let's check cosine of 0 degrees. Cosine of 0 is equal to 1. See, so I'm not lying. This is the real stuff, but you can figure this stuff out really, really quick by just using the unit circle. So the cosine of 0 is 1. The sine of 0 is 0. Now we're going to look right up here at this coordinate, at this point for 90. The cosine of 90 is 0. The sine of 90 is 1. Over here we're looking at 180. Cosine of 180 is -1. The sine of 180 is 0. Cosine of 270 is 0. Sine of 270 is -1. And then cosine of 360 and sine of 360, those are the exact same thing as cosine and sine of 0 degrees, so 1, 0. Okay? So the reason why we do this is because those are some of your reference angles, okay? Well, actually, no, those are kind of like special angles. It doesn't even matter. Those are angles that are important, and it's really, really helpful if you automatically know what the sine and cosine are just by you can either draw out this circle and label the points. That's what Miss Tompkins has everybody do. Or, I mean, just think about it. Obviously a circle, you know where 0, 90, 180, and 270 are. So just think about, all right, if I have to figure out what the cosine of 90 degrees is. Okay, cosine is my x. What's my x coordinate when you're going straight up? My x coordinate is just still 0 because I'm not going left or right. What's the sine of 270? Well, the sine is really the y value, and to get to 270 I had to go down 1, so it's -1. What's the sine of 0? It's 0 because I'm just going across. I'm not going up or down at all. Okay, so you can, on a test, you can either draw this out on your paper and label all the points, and then you'll automatically know sine and cosine of all of those coordinates really, really quick and easy. Or just think about it. Actually, I would probably prefer if you just wrote it out, just to be sure. The only thing that I do want to warn you about is that a lot of times people like rush through this and then they get the coordinates wrong, and you're probably thinking like, duh, I would never get the coordinates wrong, but just be careful. Alright, this point right here, 1, 0. This point is 0, 1, -1, 0, and 0, -1. Okay? If you label those points incorrectly and then answer a bunch of questions referring to those points, you're going to get it wrong. So you have to be careful, okay? I know that you're smart. Okay, Well, now let's think about it. Now we're going to think about tangent. Okay. So the tangent of 0, you already know that tangent is sine over cosine, right? So the tangent of 0 is sine of 0, which is 0, divided by cosine of 0, sine over cosine, 0 over 1, that is equal to 0. I'm going to move that 270 because it's going to be in my way. Okay. The tangent of 90, now we're looking at the sine and the cosine of 90. So sine over cosine, 1 over 0. What happens when we have 1 or anything over 0? That's going to be undefined. Tangent of 180, now we're looking at these. Sine of 180 is 0. Cosine is negative 1. 0 divided by anything is 0. And then tangent of 270, negative 1 divided by 0, and yet again that is going to be undefined. Okay? So, you're thinking that, well, in order to figure out tangent, you'd have to probably think of what both the sine and cosine are at each of those points and then figure it out. But there actually is a much easier way of figuring it out. I don't know why it works this way. I mean, I'm sure that there's probably a reason for it, but Ms. Tompkins kind of just pointed something out to us to help us remember. If you are trying to remember what the tangent of one of these points are, so 0, 90, 180, or 270, let's look at it like this. Both 0 and obviously 360 is the same thing as 0, so that's 0 as well. Okay. The tangent of 0, the tangent of 180, and the tangent of 360, those are all equal to 0. Everything that's on this line, tangent is equal to 0. Well, do you remember when you were in like 8th grade or maybe 9th grade and you were learning about the slope of lines? You know how the slope of a horizontal line like this is equal to 0? So that's a really easy way to remember it. The tangent, hold on, 0. The tangent of the functions, or the tangent of 0, 180, and 360, everything that's on this horizontal line like this, they are all equal to 0. So just think about the slope of that line. The slope of that line is equal to 0. Everything on that line is equal to 0. The tangent, okay? And it also happens to work out the other way too. Let me see this. Also in 7th or 8th grade or whatever, you learned about the slope of vertical lines, so lines that go straight up and down. The slope of a vertical line happens to be what again? I know, this is bad because I can't talk to you, but whatever. The slope of a line that goes straight up and down like this, that's undefined. And it happens to be that the tangent of 90 degrees and the tangent of 270 are both undefined. So that's how you think about it, okay? So let's go over here. Let's just think about this really fast. What is the cosine of 90 degrees? Cosine of 90 degrees is right there. It's my x value. That's going to be equal to 0. What's the sine of 270 degrees? Well, sine is my y value. 270 is right here. So that would be a negative 1. What about the tangent of 360 degrees? Well, 360 degrees is on this line. The slope of that line is 0, so the tangent of 360 degrees is 0. What's the tangent of 90 degrees? Well, 90 degrees is on this line. The slope of that line is undefined, so the tangent of 90 degrees is undefined. Okay? You need to be able to do this. You need to be able to draw this circle and label those points correctly and know how to use them. If you don't understand this, you need to stop what you're doing right now and either go back and listen to what I said one more time or call me or something, because you really, really, really need to understand this. Okay? So that was the first part. That was the first section. Let me see. It's like 1:30, so I think I'm going to stop this video right now. I'm going to post it really quick, and then I'll make another one for you. Okay? How do I stop this thing?